Hello everybody and welcome to this pick a card reading for the week of September 13th of 2020. And as you can see, I have a bit of a different look. And this relates to what I'm going to be talking about in this week's reading because I'm still undergoing treatment. And yet, you can clearly see my hair is coming back. The body will not be put down no matter what, unless you decide that that's what you want. The body is a great example of what the planet Jupiter is about, and that's what this week's reading is going to focus upon. So this sort of liberation energy that I feel with having this new sort of baby chick hair popping out, I just decided I'm done wearing hats. Like, it wants to come out. And I think this more bold part of me, this more free part of me wants to come out. And it has to do with the movement of Jupiter in our skies. Now, I have a lot personally to say about Jupiter because I have it within my astrological chart. I have it in that very first house, or what I like to call a gateway, within the chart. And Jupiter is in a retrograde motion when I was born. Was in a retrograde motion when I was born. And so what that means is that Jupiter is infused in everything that is my personality, that is how I deliver these messages. I am always going to give you messages wanting, encouraging, cheering you on to expand. Even if that is really uncomfortable, that your own baby chick hair, whatever that is in your life, if you're still here to live life and to soak up, to get every ounce out of your experience here, that is what Jupiter can help you with. And I have kind of a different viewpoint about all of that. I look at Cancer, for instance, as being fuel to me, just like, oh no, you're not going to get me down. You're not going to push me down. And sure, do I have days when I need to rest? Days I don't feel great? I do, and I give into that and let my body get the rest and rejuvenation that it needs. But in the end, it's all in this greater aspect of expanding into something more. And because, as I mentioned, Jupiter was in a retrograde motion when I was born, and that's true for a lot of people because it's a long period when Jupiter is retrograde as it's transiting the sky. And what that means astrologically, according to knowledge I've received just through my intuitive channel, is I have a very close relationship with the planet. And it's in my house of personality and how I bring myself to this world. I don't know how to not be enthusiastic. People who know me know I very rarely can type a message without exclamation points. That's a great example. I'm a bigger person, like a bigger sized person. I always have been. That's Jupiter in that very first part of your chart. Big life, And that retrograde means not only a close relationship with the planet, because that's when Jupiter is closest to the Earth, when it's going retrograde, as they say, which is really just an optical illusion. But it's that you have a very unique view as to what is expansive, in this case of Jupiter. What takes you to a higher plane? And I look at parts of my life and talk about them in that way, such as Cancer. And people are a little bit like, oh, for real? Like you give thanks to Cancer, or you dance with it and listen to what it has to say. Like, how about battling it? And that's not how I do it. It's a very unique viewpoint. And any of you who have retrograde planets in your chart, that's just that's the wisdom that I've received, that it's the only thing that makes sense to me. You have a close relationship with whatever that planet is, and you have a very unique version of what that planet means. okay? So Jupiter's a big deal to me. And Jupiter is known as the planet of expansion. It rules the sign of Sagittarius, one of my favorite signs, which is just shooting for the moon, you know, like I'm on to bigger and better things. What's next? What's next? I want more for myself, you know. I want to have a bigger vision. I want to make that come true. And so the thing with Jupiter, as with every planet, there is sort of a high vibe, and you can look at Jupiter as like propelling you to just break out, and sometimes it's painful, the stuff that we go through that breaks us out of our repetitive cycle and just launches us. I want you to think of Jupiter like a rocket ship, you know. It launches us. It's a gas planet. There's actually no actual physical form, like you can't land on Jupiter. It's a gas planet, okay? So the high end of that is wanting expansion for yourself and wanting to break out of routines and patterns and programs and ways of thinking and doing things that are keeping you small, that are keeping you contained. And we all know that feeling when Jupiter is sort of poking at us going, hey, hey, hey. Because Jupiter is like a super enthusiastic, you can't ignore it. It's an enormous planet and therefore has an enormous energy to it. And so you know those times when it's poking you because you start to get a little like bored. You start to feel like something just, I've always done it this way, but this doesn't feel right anymore. That's Jupiter talking to you, okay? So I see that as sort of the high form of using the Jupiter energy, which is in all of our charts, somewhere within the chart. The lower form, which is always the case with every planet, you know, if we just take it and don't co-create with it, we just let it bounce us around and have no awareness, is that it can be overblown. It can like be just like a gas explosion, you know, or sadly like a rocket ship launch that goes bad, you know. We can take off in a direction, and when we don't truly have our passion behind that and our belief behind it, we're not using the whole, meaning the higher end of that energy. Okay, does that make sense? So the reason I want to focus on Jupiter is on the 13th, on Sunday the 13th. I'm recording this on Saturday, so tomorrow, on Sunday, Jupiter is going to go direct, as they say. So let me just tell you a little story about where Jupiter's been. I call this Jupiter's journey. So back on December 3rd of 2019, Jupiter moved into Capricorn. And generally, Jupiter spends about 1 year in each of the zodiac signs, okay? So what this told us at that time was, okay, we're dealing with greater expansion for ourselves when it comes to the structures, the stability, and the level of achievement that we look at in our lives. So a lot of us, since the time of December and ongoing, this is still happening, and I'm going to give you more of the journey in a minute. But generally speaking, likely there are a lot of people who have experienced changes with their jobs. Hello, COVID. Changes with their career. I mean, because that's typically what we equate success and achievement with, because it's how we make money. And Jupiter, you know, has a lot to say around that whole money subject, and can be the planet of good fortune. So Jupiter may have given you some circumstances where you've had to relook at that, or maybe break out, or maybe really question, or maybe you're currently questioning. Why am I doing this? Again, remember the poke I just talked about. Are you getting bored with it, or feeling like this isn't giving me like any joy? This isn't giving me any sense of like I'm becoming more. I'm using, you know, as you're going along, you gain certain skills, and you want to be able to use those skills as you get them on board and you really integrate them. And if you're not doing that, it's Jupiter that goes boing, you know, like, hey, you got some new stuff in your backpack, why aren't you using it? You know? And so this is where we might experience changes with career. Also with things, I want you to think about really basic earthy matters, okay? So having to do with finances, having to do with your home, having to do with your daily routines and how you set that up. And also just having to do with what I would call your mastery. Again, in a very earthy sense, because it's moving through the sign of Capricorn, which is an earth sign. And it has to do with, you know, how we are the mountain goat pushing up the mountain. And so whatever you're really good at, and that looks different for everybody. And we don't necessarily even always do whatever that thing is that we're good at as part of our job that we make money at. But it's whatever this mastery is that you have, that even that, by the time Jupiter leaves Capricorn, you will have come to a new place around that. You will have come to some level of understanding where maybe you're making some shifts that, okay, I have mastered that and I need to move on to something else, because it's like that feeling that we have like Christmas morning when we get that toy as a child and we just dive into it, headlong into it. I can remember the Christmas when I got Atari and just, you know, you dive headlong into it. That's Jupiter energy. Like, I am so excited and I'm so gonna get after this. And or like people who go back to school and really want to change their career or to study something that it's not even about career, it's just an interest that you have. It's just so enlivening. Think back to those times in your life. That's Jupiter at work. Okay, so it's in any of these matters. It could be work, home, money, and mastery. That's kind of what I would boil it down to. And it really gets back to kind of the structures and of your life, and also what you think of as achievement. So Jupiter, again, started that journey in Capricorn at the very beginning of December of last year. Then in May of this year, May 15th, Jupiter retrograde started. So that's when planets closest to the Earth rushes on by, and it looks like the planet is going backwards, okay? That's the retrograde. So for those that have, like I do, a Jupiter retrograde in their natal birth chart, that is a time when planets go into the retrograde motion, it feels like home. And you can be assured with a planet as powerful as Jupiter, again, it's a gas giant. It's a giant. And therefore the energy behind it is giant. Okay? It feels like home if you've got that Jupiter retrograde too in your chart. And you're sure to learn something during a retrograde season no matter what planet it is. Okay? You're going inward. You're turning that journey inward, that energy, and saying, okay, I'm really ready for expansion here. So what have I got to do in the sign of Capricorn, in those earthy matters, to make a shift? And then it's up to you as the signs and signals start coming in, the breadcrumbs start showing up. You start, you know, things just come onto your path that are dealing with those subjects: work, home, money, mastery, okay? In those things, it's up to you in those moments as to whether you're going to take those under you're going to use them as an advisory, you know, or if you're going to let it just be to the side or totally ignore it. But you're considering everything during a retrograde motion, okay? You're taking in all the information. Maybe big changes are just plain happening in your life where you don't have a choice, but you've got to look at those things. And then tomorrow, September 13th, is when Jupiter's going to go direct forward again. This is the time. This is why this is so big, and I feel the energy. And I've really felt it for a couple of days now. It's really big, potent energy. Because this is the swan song within Capricorn, okay? This is the time when you take all of that information that you've been collecting on those matters I said since May 15th. All that information you've been collecting like a scientist in the lab. You take that under advisement and you decide, what action am I going to take? Because direct means it's your time. Means it's a time of good fortune. It's a time to step forward. It's a time to expand. And I'm not saying this is always comfortable. I'm going to keep saying that. There are times of rub that are definitely there. But how you choose to look at that is absolutely your choice. Like how I look at cancer. Do I want cancer? Of course not. But it has taught me, shown me so much, and it's taking me to another level at the moment. And so that's what I want to encourage, is that I want you to think about what's been happening in those areas of your life, of work, home, money, and mastery. Where do you need to take action? Because we have until December 20th. Right around the winter solstice. Winter solstice is 20th to the 21st. Longest night of the year, longest period of darkness, and then we start moving to the light. That date is when Jupiter is going to move into Aquarius. And I'm going to put my stake in the ground right here and right now in this video. That is when I believe we officially herald in the 2100-year cycle of the age of Aquarius. I think it's our time to be individuals, to have our fuzzy, baby, soft chick hair that's coming out in whatever area of life, and we're proudly sitting there as I sit here in front of you and say, this is who I am. That's Aquarian energy. It is highly unique, but it is interested in the good of all. It is interested in humanitarianism. It's interested in connecting, like you've got this piece and I've got that piece, and Sally over there has this piece, and then Josh has this piece. It's like it's many pieces that come together. It isn't the individual needing to do it all. That is the era of Pisces. Jesus was the avatar, the poster boy for the age of Pisces, that I already feel we're out of that age. I feel we are in the Aquarian age, but this movement of Jupiter and good fortune and getting off on this new foot, it's that big, people. On December 20th of this year, that's really going to happen. And we're going to see big shifts over as we get into 2021, when Jupiter is going to we're going to be looking at a whole new set of things. We're going to move out of job, money, mastery, home. We're going to move out of that, and we're going to move into more of these humanitarian aspects and how individuality serves us incredibly well. But only when we come together as groupings to create very customized kind of options and offerings, no matter what it is in our life. And really wanting to make a difference. That's important to Aquarius. Really wanting to do something that helps humanity and that makes linkages. Again, I keep seeing a picture of a chain link, because it just takes many to make the perfect solutions, okay? And I just want to relate this to your life. Let's not get into politics and all that crap. Let's just deal with your life, because that, I will always say, is your biggest job. It is the job that is more important than anything else, is that you pay attention to how you are individually using your energy on this planet in the way you wish to, that it is your choice. They are your possibilities. Jupiter will always be poking at you. Jupiter will always be knocking on your door saying, hey, you ready to get going on this? And it's okay if you say no, too. You got to do what your heart believes in. So that's how big this journey is. And I was wanting to get some clarity about what this journey of Jupiter through Capricorn has been about. And what came up was the Queen of Swords. Okay? I purposely used this gorgeous deck. This is the Golden Art Tarot, I think, or Golden Nouveau Tarot, something along those lines. I'll remember to put it in the description box. But see all the gildedness? That's Jupiter. Jupiter's like, give me the gilded, you know. This Queen of Swords, though, it's about we've been able, in this time of Capricorn, to really shift some of our very stodgy thinking. And we've been able to use our intuition and the signs and the events of our life. That is the queen energy, the feminine energy, the receiving of this information to help impact some really stuck energy, which Capricorn can get really stuck. And anytime Jupiter is moving through a sign, it is trying to mix it up on purpose and trying to make, in this case, Capricorn more. And Swords is about your thinking. It's about getting your thinking going in different directions, using your mind and your ability to perceive, your ability to define the meaning of things, these breadcrumbs, as I was saying, these signals, these events in our life that, you know, happen out of the blue. And that's kind of the purpose of what Jupiter has been doing. And then I asked, so Jupiter goes direct now, so what does that mean? Okay, tomorrow, September 13th. That means this is the Knight of Swords, Knight of Wands, sorry, Knight of Wands. It means our firepower is up. The Wands is fire. You got the fire in your belly. And you don't have all the answers. The Knight doesn't have all the answers like the King and Queen do. The Knight is ready to go, though. That's why I said it's about action now. Fire is about action. And most importantly, what fuels that action is passion. It's because you're passionate about it, and that's what's going to make it happen, no matter what type of expansion you're looking at. It doesn't matter what it is. You go into it with fire in your belly, it's yours. Because you so believe in it that you literally, I love that image of fire in the belly. It's exactly what the Knight of Wands is all about. It's fire in the belly. And give yourself a break. You don't have to have it all figured out. In fact, it's better in the land of Jupiter if you kind of just go with the flow. If you kind of see, I'm going to take this one step. And you know what? Sometimes that one step, don't forget, you've done some massive change work when it comes to your thinking, your perceptive ability, all of those things with the mind. It's your ability to be able to use those things you've learned to then put action to it. Okay, so if you even take one step of just even changing, deciding I'm going to try a different way of thinking about X, Y, or Z. It doesn't have to be any real drastic action other than a change of a viewpoint, a change of a perspective. Like maybe I'll just put this set of glasses on for a while and see if that's pleasing to me, if that brings more flow and ease, but most importantly here, expansion into my life. That it takes me to the next level because I'm ready for it, and all of us are ready for it as this planet will be moving into Aquarius. It's a really phenomenal time, really phenomenal, okay? So the card choices this week have to do with that fire in the belly. They have to do with finding the fuel and being able to really use it proudly. You know, and I was thinking a lot about this reading over the course of this week, and what kept coming up, again, related to I know it's silly I keep referencing this, but this is pretty big for me, because I tend to be a very vain person about my hair. I always have been. And I earlier in my journey, I would never have done this at this stage. And I just can't tell you, I'm just like, I'm so free. I'm just so free. And I want that for every one of you. That is the Sagittarius spirit. There's nothing that can get me down. And I see it in my platelet counts. I see them rise with vigor to be right on schedule with every flippin' treatment. And so it's this sense of personal empowerment that I'm urging you towards. And I'm not saying empowerment in terms of power, meaning I'm going to overpower somebody or something. I'm talking just proudly being the authenticity of who you are and what makes your heart expand as we talk here about Jupiter today. What in it, you can't say anything to me that would shock me enough. You can't. Because it's individual. It's individual. And that's the age of Aquarius. That's what we will all very soon. It will be sooner than we all think. We are going to be celebrating those aspects around one another. And where you can have any hairstyle or way of thinking or way of looking at a situation or vehicle or choice of home or use of the great outdoors or whatever. You can, anything that feels good and expansive, it gets you out of your box. That is just going to be marching on in, and it's going to be very commonplace. Okay, so I'm just like, let's go for it. As Jupiter's going direct here, let's do the final bit of mastery work here in Capricorn until December 20th, when that energy shifts into a whole new sign, and that's a whole other story. Let's use that energy to really figure out what are these new structures, what's going to happen here when it comes to work, home, money, or mastery. Okay? So, fire in the belly time. So first card up here, this is card number 1. Of course, it's a fire card, 2 of fire. Alrighty. Now, this card says on it, you've come into your own. New partnerships or contracts continue to move forward. And I want to stress, you've come into your own. You get your baby chick fuzz coming out too somewhere in your life. Proudly wear it. In the tarot, this is typically a figure looking out over a brand new world. It is a world of his creation or her creation. And the figure often has the world, an image meant to represent the world in one of his hands. And I just keep hearing you've got the pearl now, you know. I'm seeing that image of a pearl in an oyster. And it's that feeling of you've got the pearl now. You can let go of all the agitation, of the irritation that caused that beautiful object to be created. It's pretty crazy that that's how it's done. And it creates something that is really the symbol. I look at the pearl as the symbol of the mother, the empress in the tarot, this real nurturing and life-giving kind of an energy. But it's born out of that grit that I was talking about, that rub. It's not easy. It's not easy. But that's that's the fire in the belly, is you've come into your own on one of these subjects. It's time to move forward. Because I'm seeing a person shifting from foot to foot, and they're doing this. They're like using their brain so hard. That's that Queen of Swords energy that I was talking about in the intro. You've been working hard this year trying to figure out which way do I go? What's the best thing to do? I don't know. And that, and also really double questioning perhaps yourself, around, I mean, because Jupiter is meant to break you out of the box. Or if you prefer to see it as a spiral, it breaks you out of that pattern too. Because eventually that path gets so worn that it's like you don't even have to watch where you're going anymore. Your feet just naturally know how to do it. Like when you have a commute and you show up to work and you're like, I have no idea how I got here, but I did. I don't remember anything from that. I was on the road for 40 minutes. I've got no idea. You know, that's time to break out of the box. Jupiter can't stand that stuff. It's like, oh my God, yawn. No. No. This is the time you have learned something incredibly powerful about how to bring yourself to this world. And a big piece of this, in whatever area of life this may, again, think about work, home, money, and mastery, okay? Those very big, broad titles. Really think about what there could be partnerships with other people or other ideas. I don't want you to just think about it in terms of other people, but again, you're lining up, you're practicing here for what will be true in the age of Aquarius. This is going to become commonplace by the time Jupiter moves out of Aquarius next year, okay? So where is it that you're ready to bring together maybe unlike ideas, or maybe they're similar ideas, but they've never been brought together like that? It's like creating a new recipe and you're just trying it out. So think about whether partnership or linkage or bridging of some sort is going to play a part in this. That seems to be key for you having enough gusto to really move forward in whatever this is, as Jupiter moves direct on the 13th tomorrow, okay? But this tells me Two of Fire. I mean, you've definitely got the rocket booster lit up. It's there. This relates to that Knight of Fire, Knight of Wands that I was mentioning before. That's what this direct motion is going to do, and you've got it. You've got it. It's just you gotta be able to look out and really see, but also believe. Believe is an incredibly important word with the planet Jupiter. You got to believe in that vision that you see for your new world that you're going to create. You've already created it. Guess why? Because you had the epiphany. You had the thought. You've been spending time on this without even knowing you've been spending time on it. But I'm sure as I'm talking, there likely is at least one example that you could relate this to. And just consider, as that direct motion moves forward and then through the 20th of December, you're really thinking about how do people come together, or how do skills come together, or ideas come together to create something that is more. It's just more. It's more fulfilling. It meets more needs. It takes the stress off. It changes how much is on your plate. Any of the above, okay? But it's a new vision, and there's pieces coming together. That's what I feel. The second card, perfect, laughter. This is the wattle. I always laugh because I think the name of the flower is so funny. And as I came out here knowing I was going to be connecting in with Jupiter for our reading this week, I sprayed the yellow aura spray, which is called Joy. That's from Amanda Ellis, her aura spray collection. And that's the energy of Jupiter. Jupiter is the happy planet. Like when I do a birth chart review for people for their astrology, one of the things I always include is the happiness pull cord, as I call it. And that looks at the sun within your chart combined with Jupiter. Jupiter it's like a cork that you can keep trying to push it under. Just like I told you about my body, I'm still having treatment and I've got hair coming in. It's crazy. Like, science is like, what? Why is that happening? But this is a great example of Jupiter. You can keep pushing the cork under the water, but it keeps bobbing up until you decide you don't want to anymore. And then it will gladly just give way. Okay, and you're done, you know? And we see that with parts of our life, but also endings happen. Jupiter has something to say about that. Endings happen in the areas such as home, work, money, and mastery. In those areas, these structures of our lives that we look to as achievement, as success, as security, as safety. Jupiter looks at those and says, oh no, you're ready for so much more than that. You're just like recycling your energy at this point. You're ready for more. The cork wants to bob up to a new level. Okay, it wants to get into a different part of the ocean. And the tides are just taking it. And that's Jupiter. Jupiter's ruling that whole action. You know, wanting that cork to float up. So what I get, this card of laughter says on it, uplift yourself and those around you through loving laughter. What I'm getting for you, to be honest here, is it's so much about vibration. When we take a light-hearted approach in how we choose to, and I want you to be really prideful about this. As I was saying in the intro, I was talking a little bit about the word empowerment. What I mean by that, it's very, very personal, the word empowerment. I want you to rethink the use of that word, because I'm not meaning it to say it's power over something, somebody, a situation. I mean, it's like a wet blanket or an umbrella that you want to like put over something, or a cap that you want to, I'm going to just keep it here, you know. And there's Jupiter. It keeps wanting to bob up the cork, and you keep wanting to be like, no, you know, like put a hat on it, you know. And this empowerment I'm talking about, I want you to really take pride in how you choose your perspective on something. I'd love you to challenge yourself on, if there's a subject that you just keep going back to the same storyline over and over and over again, you're probably getting the poke from Jupiter saying, hey, that's kind of old news. Why are we still looking at that? I'm over here in the Caribbean floating away. What are you doing back there in Antarctica? You know, you're just staying in your own energy. It's really stagnant. There's nothing there. Consider any of these storylines that you're fixated on. And we do it just naturally. Again, it's a safety and stability thing. We love stability. But Jupiter knows you can't expand if you don't mix it up now and then. So if a subject or an area of life is getting really stale, and you'll know because you'll feel agitated, you'll feel something, it just won't flow, it just won't step into it, let's move. You know, you don't feel any movement. You keep saying the same lines. You keep going along the same pattern. I see it in my life, definitely, my patterns. And I'm actively got the fire in my belly to try to break some of those, my go-tos. Like when something happens, this is my go-to. Really take pride. It's personal empowerment. And you have choice. I can't stress that enough. Jupiter loves the fact that you have so many choices. If something is not pleasing to you, but yet you keep telling the story of it, you keep going back to that age-old story, or that wound that hasn't healed, or you don't like politics, something in politics, you're ragging on COVID, you're got a coworker who drives you insane, all of these things, like, if you just keep telling that story, Jupiter's like, really? I'm over here in the crystal blue clear water. You coming? We're getting on the party boat soon. It's that joy spray that I sprayed around me. Just question it. That's empowerment. That's what I'm talking about. That you have the ability to question that. That's what I get from this Wattle card. And to understand, like I was saying about a retrograde planet, you can have an entirely, in fact, I hope you have an entirely unique vision of what that very carefully selected viewpoint or movement forward or whatever it is. I hope it's so unique that other people may not understand at all. Okay, but it's big here. And when you make these kinds of careful choices, again, about stopping before you just run the route, you know, you run, you got the commute going on, yep, I got to work today. I have no idea what I listened to, what I thought about, but I'm here. You want to be more careful. Jupiter wants to like soak up everything, every minute of that commute. You know, what if you used it to, I don't know, to listen to an audiobook that totally takes you out of your comfort zone, you know, totally gets you in a whole other place. You really, that amps up Jupiter and gets you practiced before we get into Jupiter in Aquarius. So really, as you do this, so much of it, it does, you don't know this, but it's what's coming up for your reading. You're working on your vibration. You're literally like, you're already, for you that have this card, you're already paving the way to that Jupiter in Aquarius. New ideas, new solutions, new combinations, looking purposefully for win-win situations, scenarios, people, feelings, whatever it is. You're already paving, you got like one foot in that camp already. You're so ready to jump into that. But you, right now, as we're just doing the tail end of Capricorn here until December 20th, you just gotta be masterful in selecting. And that goes for your thought. I mean, it's even before action. It's your thought and it's your emotions. Carefully select. Be empowered enough to care. Care what you put up on social media. Is it just igniting a fire under everybody because you're just like, you know, wanting to really throw a zinger out there? I've done that lately, totally out of character for me. And I question myself about it. You know, it's one of those things. It's like, okay, I'm not acting out of careful selection. That's when you're using your mastery. That's when you're caring about your vibration. Laughter is such a lifter, and that is Jupiter. Jupiter is laughter in our lives. Okay, so care enough to really pay attention to even thoughts and feelings and stories and fixations. And I know there's a lot going on right now and people are really fixated on some of this stuff, but what's it doing to your vibration? You don't even have to know anything about that. Maybe I use a different term here. What's it doing to your body, to your psyche, that you keep going back to that same subject matter over and over again? I see this relentlessly on social media, enough that it really burns me out at times, and I literally have to hide people for a while because I can't. I can't even scroll by it because it's like, ugh, God, here we go again. You know, and I do it with myself too, not so much on social media, but more like these patterns of thought. You know, I have it with my health. I have patterns of thought. But I'm seeing this little opening to the blue sky. I'm seeing that, Kat, it's choice. What are you choosing to focus on? Okay, and where literally the energy vibration is that important. Okay, you need to add the lift And in order to do that, the old stories are going to go. They're going to go because there's no place for them, and especially as Jupiter goes into Aquarius. Okay? This is the third card, and this is an intense deck. This is the Magdalene Oracle. Oh God, wow. You have this card. This is the Miracle. Miracles. And miracles, what I'm hearing right away is that I'm actually hearing like your teams, whoever picked this card, I'm hearing them laughing, which is so Jupiter in nature. Again, Jupiter connected with laughter, connected with lightness. And I'm just feeling so deeply like we take things like miracles. We put a word like that on it, and man, it's got a lot of baggage. And we just take it there, like you take it so seriously. But yet it's happening every day. Every day, the miracles of how our day comes together. If you really spent time thinking about, oh my God, I find it the most helpful to look back at certain phases of my life and to just see. You can absolutely see, again, 20/20 vision being what it is, you can see how the pieces all fit into place. You know, I think about it, there was a time when I was so kind of upset with myself that my work history looked like a connect the dots. You know, like, Kat, you gotta find somewhere to settle, and just settle, girl, settle. But it's that I couldn't find that Jupiter aspect, and I need it. It's in the first area of my chart. It's critical to my life force, that I need to feel that there are opportunities for expansion. Okay, it's necessary. I have to. And the harder it is, the harder whatever those things are, the more it breaks me open into new levels of expansion. And so I'm just hearing this, like, with the miracles, like, these things, if you look back, it's just so beautifully plays out. That within itself is a miracle. We don't have to hinge it on, like, somebody miraculously being cured of something, or, you know, a whole turnaround story from a financial viewpoint. It's happening in little bitty things in our lives where we're thinking. This is the wise use of energy. That's what they're telling me. It is, you need to give a shit where your energy is being directed. What are you looking at? What do you want? First of all, what Jupiter wants to know is, what do you want for yourself? And I would say, as this sort of fairy godmother energy that I proclaim myself to be, it's the first thing I ask my clients is, what is it that you really want? What makes you feel like full up in your belly right now in your life? And understand that that's going to change. That's Jupiter's job. That's going to change over time, whatever expands you. But are you even paying attention to that? Or are you looking in a whole other direction, and really in a direction that is, when you think about it, and you don't have to think hard on this, you look at what you've been fixated on, and there's nothing pleasing there. There's no joy there. There's no expansion there. There's nothing that feels uplifting there. Where is your focus? And I just keep hearing, like, we don't have to think about the term miracles. It's like your higher self wants to have a refresh on that term, because miracles is just simply us in our lives focused in. We're focused on a goal or something that we want in our lives, and it could be anything. It could be material or otherwise. We're focused in, and we maintain that vision no matter what. And then we watch the signs and the signals that come in, which prompt, okay, maybe that prompts an epiphany. Maybe that prompts an action forward, and it's just a little step. every bit of that process until that becomes manifestation in your life. Every bit of that is a miracle. But we put so much pressure on that term, and we feel like we're not deserving somehow, or that only happens in these really extreme cases. It's happening all the time, everywhere. You know those days when you wake up on the right side of the bed, and the better, in the words of Abraham Hicks, one of my favorite law of attraction teachers, I will always like Abraham, very simple and straightforward, been doing the same teaching for years upon years upon years. The better it gets, the better it gets. It just keeps building on itself because you're building energy momentum. And now I'm seeing that circle in the middle. That's this sort of life-giving, miraculous, seemingly miraculous energy. It really matters. And you can use the energy of Jupiter, which is a fast mover in terms of the energy of the planet because it's gas and it's huge, okay? It isn't so much its transit that's fast, it's the fact that the time to manifestation, like 0 to 65 in how many seconds or whatever, Jupiter is all over that. That's Jupiter's job. If you get a vision, I'm going to help you get there. That's what Jupiter says. But how dedicated are you to your vision? Or are you viewing it in the old ways of thinking about that term of a miracle? Are you thinking about, yeah, that stuff doesn't happen to me, or I never win anything, or things just generally don't work out for me, or just when I get things working, everything, like something comes along, it's waiting for the shoe to drop kind of energy? Poo-poo to all of that. Sweep, sweep, sweep. Out you go. You want to be ready to use Jupiter in Aquarius. This is launching a 2100-year cycle, people. Get on the ground and get running to get a head start. Just go boom into that when December 20th comes. You're going to enter that age and you're going to know what to do. But a lot of it has to do with reframing a word such as miracles. The momentum of this circle in the middle, I just see the vibrancy. It's the fire energy that I talked about in the intro. It has its own momentum. That's the way Jupiter works. It has its own momentum. So get using it and know that you have to retire if that word miracle doesn't work. Like, that is so unlikely that X could happen. Well, no, it's not, because the idea to begin with was divinely inspired by your higher self. That's what ideas and epiphanies are. They are from your higher self. If they make you feel like, yes, that feels like the right thing to do, even if you get some cold feet moments, there was a reason you had the epiphany to begin with. So nothing is out of reach for any of us, no matter what it is, because you are expansive. Your higher self is what I call your big blue sky self. There is every possibility. So really think about where you're directing your thought. And are you making a mountain out of a molehill? Are you thinking that is so, so, so unlikely? But yeah, I guess, like, yeah, I believe in that. Like, the universe hears energy, hears momentum. You can't get the power of that circle there, that momentum, that fire energy, a fire circle. Ring of fire, you know? You can't get that moving unless you get the passion, you get the fire in your belly. You believe it. Belief is everything with Jupiter, okay? Get the fire lit, people. Get it going. This is our time. It's the last of direct in these old structures of our lives. A lot of them are changing. And just welcome it, because we're going to have lots of on-the-fly options as Jupiter moves through Aquarius in the coming year. Okay? Enjoy your week and light up that fire in your belly, and you'll and take action where it feels right. You know, it's going to feel good, and you're going to know, because your cork is bobbing on the surface, wanting more and better better expansion for you, always. Bye-bye for now.